We have new details tonight on the Saudi national who killed 3 sailors and wounded 8 more at a Florida Naval Air Base last week. According to the FBI, the shooter was able to legally purchase the handgun he used to murder our men in uniform. Well, how did he do this? Well, the attacker exploited a loophole in federal law, which is raising some serious national security questions. Also tonight, Defense Secretary Mark Esper is halting training for all 852, Saudi military personnel in the U.S. while officials investigate the vetting process. Joining me now, Dinesh D'Souza, conservative author and filmmaker, and Art Arthur, resident fellow in law and policy for the Center for Immigration Studies. Dinesh, do we need to start being able to be a little more clear-eyed about the Saudi kingdom all these years after 9/11?
I think we do. Now, certainly no country had more of the 9/11 hijackers than Saudi Arabia. And it seems like we have, to some degree, forgotten the lessons of 9/11. I mean, you have Saudi guys showing up looking for military training or looking for flight training. You think that would ring an alarm bell, but apparently not, or not enough. Now, I realize, of course, that in Saudi Arabia, there are 2 Saudi Arabias. There are 2 camps. There's the royal family, and that's one camp, and there's the bin Laden camp. So we shouldn't confuse the two. We shouldn't assume that because it's Saudi, it's bad. But the truth of it is that these 2 camps are more closely connected than we might sometimes think. The Saudi regime, for example, funds all kinds of madrasas, religious schools that promote radicalism. Obviously, there are Saudis who can come to America under the auspices of the government, and yet they might have radical sympathies. And so while there are 2 Saudi Arabias, the 2 Saudi Arabias are in fact interconnected.
Art, you raised the issue today in a piece you wrote that there should perhaps be travel restrictions on some of these individuals. Again, going back to the original 9/11 Commission report, we were supposed to be fingerprinting everyone coming into the United States. We're not doing that. But what about the travel restrictions? Would that be hard to monitor and enforce?
Well, you look at this situation, Laura, and you're going to have some sort of change. You're going to have some sort of improvement because there was an intelligence failure in the vetting of this individual by DOS, by DOD, and by DHS. When he came into the United States, there was a failure on the part of DOD to monitor him when he was in the United States. And again, as you said, there are 853 Saudi nationals in the United States who are taking military training right now. Now, Lieutenant al-Shamrani used a gun, but what if he had used a plane? What if he had, done something else to, inflict even greater carnage than he did? Secretary Esper is right to call for a review of the vetting program. It plainly has some defects. If this individual was allowed into the United States, he was here for almost 2 years. He was engaged in some pretty sketchy activities in this country, and he was able to get a gun.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, here's how CNN spun the president's reaction to that Pensacola shooting. Watch.
The New York Times wrote a piece saying this struck many people as just odd, that the president's first instinct appeared to be to defend the Saudi royal family.
He's providing cover for the Saudis. Trump doesn't have ideology. That what is most important to Trump is he going to pursue his own personal agenda wherever that takes him? And I think that's actually quite consistent, even though it, creates all sorts of paroxysms among those that don't like those policies.
Well, I also see consistency in the hypocrisy.
Dinesh, did Brennan not get the memo about the whole America First thing? And that's Ian Bremmer there. I mean, there's a personal benefit. I don't see that. I mean, they are an important ally in the region, are they not? I mean, Trump's trying to balance all of that.
Absolutely. The United States has been allied with Saudi Arabia going back essentially to World War II. And Saudi Arabia has been an important ally, not economically to some degree. Now, of course, over time, America's dependence on the region for oil has gone down. Huge discoveries of natural gas in the United States. We're not as dependent on the desert as we used to be. And that might warrant some reevaluation of the sort of automatic deference that we have tended to give to a country like Saudi Arabia in exchange for its sort of economic alliance with us.
Well, are the pilots, the men and women who keep us safe in the skies, they're kind of tired of not being able to be armed on these military bases. Senior U.S. Army officer, we trust 18-year-old privates in combat with grenades, anti-tank missiles, but we let service members get slaughtered because we don't trust anyone to be armed back here in the United States. Why are we cowing in our offices? It's insane. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the oddest things for the American people to understand. NAS Pensacola was a gun-free zone. So the only people who are going to have guns in NAS Pensacola are bad people. Lieutenant Al-Shamrani was taken out by an Escambia County deputy. That's what it has come to. This is a military base that has planes, that has, armaments, and yet no one is allowed to carry a gun. That's a policy I think that we need to rethink, because if there had been a good guy with a gun there, probably there wouldn't have been the carnage that we saw occur in Pensacola on Friday.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much.